There we go. We are live.
All right, we're live. Boom. Okay. This is the NFL Fantasy Today show. Nope, never gonna get it right. This is John Mo Sales. We got Jason Baum here. We got Brian Shade. We're gonna Thursday show. We're gonna bring you everything fantasy related. Right. We're gonna talk waiver wire. We're gonna talk the Thursday preview. We're even gonna go behind the curtain, check out Brian's projection model, see what he's got cooking for tonight. Jason does our injuries roundup for the week, so we're gonna go into that because obviously there was a ton of injuries in week one. So kick it off. You guys just say hello and let's jump right into it.
How's it going?
So fantasy, how'd everyone do? Week one. You guys, everyone win their weeks? Jason?
I went 3-1 in my 4 leagues, including the one and including our esteemed league now. The one I lost was just got a little too cute. Tends to be kind of a week one trend for me. Find a couple of matchups I like. And unfortunately, that one kind of bit me this week. But hey, we'll bounce back.
Yeah, right. I was 2-2, lost in the league that we have together. I'm the one who got CMC. Pretty close, but both my leagues, I think I played Boswell and Minnesota's defense. So
nice.
That's just unfortunate for me. Can't really do anything about that. Yeah, I mean, CMC is definitely killing me, but I like the depth. Now I just have to figure out who to start week to week. I have like 5 people for one league in a flex position that I'm never going to get it right, but the problem I have, I guess.
That's how it works, right? So let's talk CMC quickly, right? So first off, I saw a thing where he said he was playing. Covers.com dropped it, but I didn't find that anywhere. But I guess also doesn't mean anything. But like, let's say you knew he wasn't playing week one and you're drafting again late August, right? Where are you taking him? Bryce, since you took him first, hit me.
I wouldn't take him first. I mean, maybe end of the first, because then you compare. It just depends who you think you can get with them later in the second, or like if you think it's just difficult to tell because like there's not that much information out. So it depends on your risk profile. I would still maybe go like middle of the first, probably after Breece, Bijan, like Tyreek, like that kind of CD, Amon-Ra, like that crew. Maybe after that. I mean, after week one, I would maybe even go put Saquon in that bucket, but I would take him probably mid to late first.
Okay, Jason, you're the Niners fan. You're repping the gear. Where are you taking CMC?
Call me biased. I'm still taking him in the top 5, understanding that he'll be back. It's a long-term play.
Right.
And you're drafting Jordan Mason as the handcuff. And, with any running back in the Shanahan system, they're going to do at least somewhat productive. And Mason really did outplay expectations. But, if you knew he was out week one, you're obviously drafting Mason, some point in the middle rounds as well to have him and be prepared for it. But at the end of the day, he's still the reigning offensive player of the year. He scored 21 touchdowns last year. So he was basically scored a touchdown pretty much every game. So at the end of the day, yeah, you got to have enough confidence in yourself to cover it, for the time McCaffrey is out. And then when you get him back, 10%.
Okay. Let's stay on this for one more second. So what about trade value? Like straight up, what are you trading for him right now? Right. Let's say like you wouldn't get Saquon, right? But, you're not taking Devontae Adams, right?
I mean, it depends on your league mates and kind of their profile. I wouldn't doubt if there's somebody in the world that would think they're selling high on Saquon, you can get him. I don't think so, but I mean, I think it all depends on if he plays this week. Like, you're not going to get it depends on your league settings, but normally you don't get a trade in this late that'll be valid for this week. So, and it doesn't, to me, make sense. I feel like you're not going to see many trades done because whoever has them wanted them, drafted them high, and they're not going to give up low on them after 1 week. Maybe if they're 0-2, yes, but after just 0-1, you can bounce back, like Jason said. So I mean, I have him here. I'm not giving him up for anything other than another top 5 running back.
But you would move him for Saquon.
I would move him for Saquon. But I don't think the Saquon owner is going to do it.
Okay. No. Let's stick with injuries, right? Jason, you wrote our injury write-up. lot of injuries week 1, right? So
Yeah.
run us through that. Like, are we Puka panicking? Jordan Love panicking? Who's
I do want to start with McCaffrey, actually, because I know what he said and what's been really going on. So Adam Schefter reported on Monday Night Countdown the other night that he's unlikely to play on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings. That game is also, on the road. It's an early start, and it's on turf. It all seems kind of like a very combustible situation, so I literally wouldn't be shocked if McCaffrey is held out again for week 2, especially since the Niners won on Monday. Each win buys them a little more time. The Niners situation right now as a team is not really beneficiary for fantasy owners when they have guys who are on the border of playing versus not playing. So the more wins they get, the more time they buy guys like McCaffrey. So
it'd almost be stupid to rush him back, right? You got Mason putting up McCaffrey light.
Exactly. There's that. But the thing is, though, it does change the Niners playbook. There are things the Niners can do with McCaffrey on the field versus the things that they can't do when they don't have him on the field. But again, 1 win equals probably at least buys them another week to maybe hold them for against the Rams. That's a pretty big divisional game coming up.
Who do you see gets the biggest bump with him out? Do you see it being Kittle? Because I know sometimes they say like running backs and tight ends take stuff, or Debo also gets some rushing, obviously, with McCaffrey out.
It should be Debo for sure at this point. If you look at the game on Monday night, they lined Debo up at running back 9 or 10 times. Yeah. So more volume, more touches, and with Brandon Ayuk still going to probably need a couple of weeks to really get up to speed. It's going to be a heavy reliance on Debo. It's going to be a heavy reliance on Kittle, especially if Juwan Jennings can't play. That's big. However, one guy to potentially look out for, there's no guarantee here, just throwing his name out there, is Jacob Cowing, 4th-round pick this year out of, unfortunately, the University of Arizona. But that's a whole other story. But the kid was really good in college. He is kind of Debo light. There's some Debo light qualities to him. He's their team punt returner right now, but he did show some flashes at receiver during the preseason. I'm pretty excited, personally, to see him get on the field and get some reps at receiver if Jennings can.
Okay, let's keep moving to the injuries, right? Let's go ahead. Keeping the division, Puka.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But going in, he missed most of the preseason. He was week to week. Obviously he was available, to play on Sunday night and was playing for a while. It looks like he re-aggravated the knee. The Rams have put him on IR, designated to return. So you have him out for the next at least 4 weeks, which I'm assuming will be all it will be, and he'll be back by, week 6. So going in, that means more opportunities for Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson. The good thing with both of those guys is both are very seamless fits. They both played with 2 of the greatest to ever do it. Johnson, started his career in Tampa Bay. He played with Tom Brady, showed some flashes there. Robinson spent all those years in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and had some big games. And you have a guy like Sean McVay who can scheme it up and get those guys open. And they're going to have to take some of the target share and some of the pressure off of Cooper Kupp. So, but at this point, with the more established Robinson, he's probably the better waiver wire target if you haven't been able to pick him up yet. But he seemed to have gone 95+% of waiver wires. I know I spent some fat money on him in a league to get him, and I'm going to flex him this weekend against the Cardinals.
Smart. Okay. Brian, how'd your model? How does that shake up the Rams? Not to put you on the spot here for the wide receiver.
I'm a bit more.
We'll add it here. You want to just do a quick?
Yeah, it's more just kind of the receiver share. I just went heavy on Cooper Kupp because, last week Cooper had
21 targets, 14 grabs.
Yeah, almost 44% of targets. So like 35 is less. So I just kind of gave them both 16%. I think, the stuff I heard is like Demarcus Robinson's guaranteed, and then Tutu, Tyler Johnson, and Whittington would kind of work in. I'm curious what's going on with Tutu because like last season, Tutu was the one to step up. Obviously, they just added more people, but he was a solid kind of like do-it-all player, would get some end-arounds and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a bit more manufactured touches as well. So as a result, I just think I mean, I have Demarcus Robinson at like 10 and a half PPR points. Not bad. Probably, again, solid flex. The other guys I'm not touching just because I don't think there's going to be enough to go around. And I think Cooper Kupp's going to be, he might look like he did in 2022, the beginning of this.
No, for sure. The one lesson I learned from week 1 is don't guess, right? With I'm going to move on to the Packers in a second, but when it's that crowded wide receiver room, you think I thought it'd be Christian Watson. Apparently it's Jaden Reed, right? So Jason, what's the deal on Jordan Love?
So he is dealing with a sprained MCL. The Packers decided not to place him on IR, designated to return, so he is week to week, but the realistic timeline is about 3 to 6 weeks, but it's closer to 3 than it is to 6, which is great news for Packer fans. Especially starting 0-1 if they can try to hold the fort here a little bit, and Malik Willis can do his thing and really show some of the flashes that teams kind of salivated over in 2022 when they were when they were going through the pre-draft process with it. Usually, it's not great news for the wide receivers, but it's great news for the running backs. So Josh Jacobs should see a heavy dosage in heavy usage, and maybe even a little Marshawn Lloyd love would be a thing. And also, when you have the backup quarterback, tight ends usually also kind of benefit here. However, it's not Luke Musgrave right now, and it's Tyler Kraft. He played more snaps, ran more routes, was probably going to see more targets too. But unfortunately, the Love injury happened, and the Packers do have a lot of mouths to feed. So that's also a very difficult situation to predict there. It's tough to guess.
They do. Brian, let's put you on the spot. You got the Packers? Let's just check out.
Yeah, I mean, I just have like a pretty good mix of 21%. I mean, I don't have anyone really doing much other than Jaden is maybe a flex play.
For the gadget plays?
Yeah, because he'll get some rushes. Even Malik will, I don't actually think I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. It'll be fun to watch. I mean, they're playing Indianapolis, so it'll be fun to see the difference between Anthony Richardson and Malik Willis. Just two similar type of quarterbacks in the way they play, but one just seems to be a bit better. So I would avoid, unless you're in a deep league, Watson and Dobbs. Watson's your big play. Dobbs is going to be more your kind of slot targets. So I have Reed in the league. I'm staying away from him. I'll find other people to start in a flex. But if it's a super deep league, maybe I would start him.
You're benching Jaden Reed. I don't even know what he was. What was he last week? Well, you got top 5 wide receiver, right?
I mean, yeah, he had 2 touchdowns. He was great. He did a bunch. I'm not following it. It feels like you're then just chasing touchdowns, which I try not to do. I mean, last week he had, again, only not even 20% of the target share.
Oh, really? Wow.
So it was just he scored a bunch.
Yeah.
Dobbs was the leading target guy. Yeah, I expect that to maybe change. Obviously, he just got the slot reps, but I just don't see him being okay, maybe he has a better chance of a touchdown at Jaden Reed, but is this offense going to score that many touchdowns this time? The difference between Love and Willis is going to be night and day, in my opinion, in the passing game.
Okay. Let's hit a couple questions here, and then Jason, we'll get back a couple more injuries. So, Andre, we already talked CMC, so let's do – boom. Should I start Joe Burrow in the next few weeks? This is right. Everybody saw that video of him trying to pick up the water bottle, right? That's about as scary as it gets. Right? They're playing the Chiefs, great D. Right? The ADOT on the Bengals isn't good, and that's what the Ravens weren't doing either. So, right, if you don't throw downfield, you're kind of in the blender, right? So, Jason, Joe Burrow, is he QB1 for you?
Probably where you drafted him, you probably got to suck it up for at least another week, but it's time to start looking at other options. Waiver wire is pretty friendly out there right now in some leagues. I've seen Aaron Rodgers available, Cousins, Baker Mayfield still sitting there. I'm not going to write my guy off. I've always been a big Baker guy, and now he's absolutely thriving in Tampa Bay. And, there's a lot of people who are still, waiting to see another year of him. But I can't say enough good things about Baker Mayfield. And plus, you got the ultimate security blanket, Mike Evans, throw the ball to. And, Rashad White can do damage out of the backfield. And then Chris Godwin, who appears to shake off, who's appeared to shake off, a couple of years of injury history, and went for a little over 18 fantasy points in half PPR formats last week. Bucks offense could do some damage.
And they're playing the Lions, right? So they're probably going to be down. Lions secondary's not ready. Yeah, I would start Baker over Joe Burrow this week.
100%.
Which is crazy.
I have Burrow at my QB 15 this week. I just think it's just a lot more risk than I want to take. And I brought this up in our group message. I would probably start Daniel Jones over him, which is ugly, but he's playing the Commanders. He's runs a lot, and that Commanders defense is terrible. And you said, both Goff and Mayfield, they're playing in a game with a 50, maybe a 50 plus over under. I'd start both of them over him as well. It's just I think there's just more Justin Fields. If he starts, I'd put him over him. I just have a lot more options that even some that I think you can find on the waiver wire that you can start over him.
Oh, for sure. Plus, you have the injury to T. Higgins right now as well. It doesn't sound like it's looking too good for him to play again. Nope. And you still have the Jamar Chase contract drama. He played last week. He put up a very respectable 6 grabs for 62 yards, but you don't know what kind of limitations he's under. He didn't really practice much in training camp. If you think he practiced maybe 1 or 2 days during the training camp portion of the offseason. And that's still another can of worms that the Bengals are dealing with. And it's not really a good, ideal situation, once you're heading into the season and now you're in season.
Yeah, and the Bengals are kind of known for starting a bit slow. I think it was last year they also were terrible to start.
It's the weather game, though. That was the Cleveland.
I think Burrow all the time is 1-8 in his first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, he's bad. 8-12 September, something like that. Okay, let's move on. So Joe Burrow. We all love Joe Burrow, right? Everyone loves Burrow, but make him earn it, right? Let him throw over 2 touchdowns, 250 before you start him again, or at least have him be playing, the Commanders. All right, we got Z Smitty. Another question. We're still sticking on QBs, which I love. I love talking QBs. Right. So we're starting Jared Goff against Baker. Right. The Bucks, good matchup. Tua tonight. Right. If you got that fantasy FOMO and you need action versus the Bills, or Justin Fields. Oh, somebody help me. Pittsburgh is playing.
They're playing the Broncos in Denver.
Playing Denver in Denver. Okay. Brian, hit me. Rank the 3 for me.
It's Goff, Fields, Tua for me, and it's Goff by a mile. I have Goff as a top 3 QB this week. That's a fifth. I think it's 51. I can get 51 over under. They're -7, so they're projected to get 29 points. That's a lot of points for them. So, you can see my kind of QB rankings. I have Goff at 3 behind Hurts and Jackson.
Wow.
I just think that matchup and that defense, it's just perfect. They're gonna put up points.
Okay, I agree. All right, Jason?
Yeah, actually, my rankings are the exact same. But I think but in terms of the actual rankings itself, you have Goff or Tua. You can't really go wrong with starting either of them. Bucks defense very banged up right now. Lions at home put up points, so that's a good factor and a good sign. Even though they've been running the ball well, Goff can still sling it, and Amon-Ra St. Brown will have a lot more than 3 catches for 13 yards. So there's that, but the Bills defense is a whole lot of new parts too, and you got the Dolphins at home, short week, coming off a little momentum after that last second win on Sunday against the Jags. And Tua early season is usually pretty good as well, so I also really like that. Fields is a start only if you have to. The Steelers obviously kicked all field goals last week and it won them a game, which is great, for them, but it's not great for fantasy. So. If you have either Goff or Tua, though, you can't really go wrong with either. Fields is basically a desperation play at this point.
Yep, I think Bills are at the top corner, too. I know Tyreek historically doesn't light up the Bills, but, the Bills light up Miami, so high-scoring game. I think, you got to go Goff, trust in Brian's data, but, having Tua tonight is going to be fun, right? He led the league in passing yards last season, also last week, right? No Mostert tonight, right? We should have talked about that. We'll talk about it in the preview. So, right, a chain receiving back. I think Tua could be throwing 350 again, 3 touchdowns. But, Goff's got that too. Okay, let's move on. We got another question.
We've been up in the snow before. I mean, that's Tua lit the Bills up in the snow a couple of years ago. Let's not forget that. Now he's got, natural grass. Seems like it's going to be a pretty clear night, so it should be a pretty good night for offense.
Yeah, I like Tua. I bet his yards. Okay, next we got Wayne T. Hey guys, so I said Jordan Mason, Josh Jacobs. Okay, we're gonna give it to Jason because he's the Niners fan. He's not even that biased.
Not that biased. I mean, at this point, you still got to go Josh Jacobs. The Niners can run the ball.
We're going to assume CMC's out for this.
Yeah. We still don't for sure know if CMC's out. So, yeah, you got to go with Josh Jacobs. You probably, again, spent a high draft pick on Jacobs, especially with Malik Willis being the quarterback. He's going to be leaned on very heavily. The Niners still have a number of guys they can rely on, if the situation warrants it. So he's not, it's not a knock against Mason. It's more so the versatility of the Niners versus the limitations currently of the Packers and the unknown of Malik Willis. So you got to go.
Okay, Brian, what does your model tell us? I love doing this, by the way. This is great.
I mean, assuming CMC doesn't play, I have Mason at, I don't know, let's see, that's RB14, and I have Jacobs pretty low. A lot of it is just Green Bay's only, according to Vegas, we're supposed to get 18.75 points, and San Francisco's supposed to get plenty more. So it's just 26. That's like a 8-point difference. It's more of like, who do I trust to get a touchdown more? I trust Jordan Mason to get a touchdown more, just due to point totals and kind of workload. So I agree. Josh Jacobs is obviously, like, I'd much rather have him going forward, but this week, and I just don't know how that offense is going to look. Maybe they work him to death. Maybe it's like a Breece Hall with Zach Wilson starting QB type work, but he still had to score for it to be very useful. So I'm leaning Mason.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm leaning Mason too. It's just, for me, it's just game script, right? Packers are 3.5-point dogs, but Niners are 6-point favorites, right? So they're much more likely to be running the ball. Plus they're on goal line, right? Willis might just take it himself. I'd worry about that. But I mean, Jacobs is going to probably, if it's a close game, he's getting 25 carries, right? Like, they're not throwing it.
I am going to say one thing to note, though, and I know we were talking about this pre-show. The Niners struggles in the city of Minneapolis. They're, I believe, 1-4, 0-5 in their last 5 games there. They played there last year on a Monday night, and they really struggled. Although McCaffrey did have a touchdown. But the Niners have not had the most pleasant of trips to the other Twin Cities. So it's also factored into my little decision. But, you just have, certain things in every sport where, some team has your number or some building you just can't play in or struggling. The Niners have not won a game yet at US Bank Stadium. I know they're at least 0-2 there. So definitely an interesting thing to keep an eye on.
Okay, let's make a note. Let's see who gets more fantasy points this week, Mason or Jacobs, assuming CMC's out, right? Yeah. Let's do a quick hit the wire, even though the wire's over. But let's say, I'll give you the top guys. You guys rank them for me, right? Likely, we got, Alexander Mattison, Lazard, and who am I forgetting? Maybe let's say Bucky Irving.
I mean, for who I want to start this week,
let's say waiver priority. Yeah, the one waiver priority. Those guys are on the wire. How are you going?
I mean, a lot of it is, I think, position based. Sure. Like,
you got Laporta, you don't need Likely. Yeah, I know, I get that, but
yeah, probably Likely just because there's less tight ends. Like, I think Likely will still probably, he's not going to be this great. This is most likely his best week of the year, but I still think he might be a top 12 tight end because he's probably the third option behind Flowers and Andrews in that offense. So, okay, I can get 8 points a week from my tight end. That's unfortunately still probably top 12. Like, it just is what it is at the tight end position. The tight end position was terrible last week. So just having that upside, I probably would go him one. Bucky Irving, I just like where that's headed. He's a rookie running back who looked like he had burst, and no one really loved Rachaad White before last season. So maybe Bucky Irving just ends up taking more of that. Rachaad White was more of a volume play last season. And I mean, he's still a volume play now, but he did enough with it. And then Madison's just, if I need somebody to start at running back this week, like in my McCaffrey league, I might value him a little bit more just because I need somebody to get me points at running back.
Okay. And then Jason, we'll switch it up. We'll say fob, right? Let's say it's budget. Like, well, what do you? Let's say you needed a tight end. What are you spending on Likely, or what would you have spent?
Honestly, I'm still not spending that much on Likely. I put in a $5 bid for him. I know he was going around the average of like, at least in the leagues I was in, around 19, $20 in FOB. I think that's reasonable, but I would have probably spent closer to like $12 to $14.
Okay.
Again, you still have Mark Andrews who exists on that team, and it sounds like he's a little banged up. And once he gets healthy, it's still Lamar's guy. It's kind of very similar to the Puka Nacua Cooper Kupp situation. Yeah, Likely had a good run already, and Nacua had a good run last year, but the other guy is that quarterback's guy, and that just doesn't go away, in my opinion. In terms of Lazard, I would have spent around $10 on him because right now he is the number 2 there for the Jets. But also don't forget Mike Williams is getting up to speed and getting healthy. He's a little under a year removed from the torn ACL, so they're working him back in slowly. But he will likely be the number 2 once he's really more ready to go. But Lazard at this time does have that connection with Rodgers, and it seems like the only balls he can actually catch are with that are ones thrown by Aaron Rodgers, because he really couldn't get them up last year. And let's just say I know a lot of Jet fans who were very displeased. Old Alan Lazard. Now, there's even a saying around his name that I can't really repeat on air, but there's that.
Never go full Lazard.
I can't really say it.
Okay.
But it's a really funny thing surrounding a group chat with one of the Jet fans. Going in there now.
Okay, and then hit me, Bucky Irving.
Bucky Irving, I would have spent about $15 to $17 because, like Brian said, I actually do like where that's going as well. Unlike the rest of it, I was always a believer in Rachaad White because I watched him for all my years as an ASU fan, and the kid was an absolute stud. But you do need somebody to complement and getting he got, I want to say, 12 touches last week between carries and targets. So getting that as a rookie in your first game is also pretty impressive and very eye-opening. So I would have actually spent, $15 to $20 at least on Bucky Irving.
Okay, cool. Brian, we got your model here. Carries breaking out. So still 30% of the carries.
Yeah, 30% of the carries and had a 10% receiving share. I mean, obviously Rachaad White at 20% will kind of help carry you, but it's that's very good numbers for your first game, in my opinion.
100%.
And they love him, right? They just rave about him. First one in, doesn't even leave. So he's maybe the elite. Okay, give me top 3 running back stashes. I love putting you guys on the spot. Jason, hit me.
Tyrone Tracy, still guy. I mean, I'm stashing him in multiple leagues. Ray Davis is another.
Okay.
He, got a couple of touches. I wouldn't play him this week.
Buffalo rookie running back, just for everyone.
Yeah, Buffalo rookie running back. I would, definitely stash him as well. He seems like a really good play. Last stash. Ooh, this is a tough one, but I guess it would be Bucky Irving at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to stash differently. Like, I would still go like Algier if he's on the waivers, stash him, because like a bunch of these guys, I'm not going to feel comfortable starting without an injury. So who do I want to like? I want an injury to Bijan. I want an injury to Saquon. So maybe Kenny Gainwell. Bucky Irving honestly might be third just because he's getting work now. And if there's an injury, he could just go nuclear. So probably those 3.
Getting calls. Leave me alone, people. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the main event, right? We got Thursday Night Football. We got Bills, Dolphins. Dolphins are 2.5-point favorite, 48.5-point total. Josh Allen is 11-2, I believe, against the Dolphins in his career. He owns them. He averages over 300 yards passing, 50 yards rushing, minimum 2 passing touchdowns. I mean, on paper, it looks like the Bills are going to run rough. They're unstoppable, right? Dolphins secondary, not that great. They had Julian Phillips, linebackers are banged up. It was low scoring against the Jags, but what are we thinking? Give me side and total. Brian, we'll hit you first. Actually, no, Jason first, and then we're gonna hit the model.
Sure. And what do you want? Spread's what, 2.5 right now in favor of the Dolphins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the Bills plus 2.5 tonight. Again, Josh Allen's numbers against the Dolphins are very impressive. There's that. Their offense, still put up 34 plus points last week with a whole bunch of new parts other than James Cook and Dalton Kincaid. So yeah, and good weather. Should be a clear night. Should be really good for Allen to be able to have a very nice statistical night. And I feel like the Bills defense can still get to Tua, and Von Miller's still on the other side. He may be a little older, but he can still rush the passer, and he can make Tua's life very, very difficult.
Okay, cool. And then we should hit this. So Mostert's out of the game. Devon Achane, or whatever you pronounce, is questionable but likely to play. What do you do? Jeff Wilson Jr., Jalen Wright. Are you starting them? Deep league, flex? Talk to me.
Deep league, I'm assuming you have other options than Jalen Wright, but if Achane can play, I wouldn't start Jalen Wright or Jeff Wilson Jr. I would keep going through other options because we really just don't know the volume and the predictability. Maybe Jeff Wilson Jr. because he seems at this point, he's been with Mike McDaniel forever, dating back to his days in San Francisco.
And he had 5 carries last week, right? So it's not like he's totally phased out. Okay, we're gonna nerd out here for a bit. Okay, Brian.
I mean, yeah, the way my model tends to work is I take over under from Vegas and I do plus minus, and then it basically works on like the yards per point that they scored last year. And now that we have 1 week of data, I kind of mixing that up. So just kind of blending it to get something. So obviously this won't take into account Josh Allen loving to beat up on the Dolphins, but it does take into account the Bills offense as a whole and the Dolphins defense as a whole. And then, I mean, you can just kind of but like I'll look at last week. I have like all of 2024, last week, rush share, target share, and then 2023, the Bills as a whole. So you'll still obviously see Diggs in here just to kind of get a bit of a knowledge on how their target shares and rushing shares end up working. Make an estimate here based on kind of who I think is playing. Obviously here I just select depth chart. So Josh Allen, I don't have him as high as he maybe should be. He's only like QB 5 maybe this week, or QB 6.
Blasphemy.
But I mean, it's hard to say that obviously because he's been just the top tier of top tier in quarterbacks for fantasy. I think kind of on the Bills side, James Cook looks like a very good option. He had a high rush share, and he's kind of still going to continue to have a high rush share. Plus, they obviously love to use him in the passing game. On Miami side,
just quickly on the Bills, right? So the target spread, because I think he had 18 completions to 10 different receivers, right? Do you see that? Is he gonna stay like that, like a communist, or is he gonna, do you see him locking into Shakir, who was a beast versus Miami last year, the rookie Coleman, who looked good, or Kincaid, who kind of got phased out in week 1?
I mean, I think it's still probably going to be spread out. Like, everyone thinks Kincaid is like the top guy there. He hasn't really proven it yet. I do think he'll probably go up from last week, but I mean, having a rookie wide receiver lead you week 1 with 20%, that's very attractive to me. He didn't score, I believe. So like I think it's a great buy low opportunity on him in general. I could see him being the rookie wide receiver. I do have it still spread out. I have Dalton Kincaid obviously increasing a little bit to 13%, and then kind of Keon still being the number 1 with Shakir and Samuel maybe working in a little bit more. But I don't like how Dawson Knox is still kind of involved when it comes to me valuing Kincaid. I think he's a good talent. It's just they tend to like to use them both. So that does scare me. So, I mean, I would say the starts are obviously Allen, Cook. I mean, Kincaid, there's just not that many other tight end options. And then I would start either Shakir or Coleman as a flex. Allen tends to throw it a bunch. It's hard to predict who the guy is going to be. Most likely there'll be one person in the high teens and the rest kind of stink. This just obviously spreads it out a little bit more.
Okay, cool. All right, hit me with the fins.
A lot of this A-Chain is difficult to project because his per touch numbers are absurd. And obviously with Mostert probably being out, you expect him to go up in rushing share. So I have him as kind of like the guy this week. He's my RB1. I might try to change things around to just kind of decrease it a little bit. But I just think he's a stud. And if he gets more touches, they used him a bunch through the air last week. If they continue to use him as like even if he get, like I have him under 50% with Jeff Wilson kind of getting a little bit more touches, I still think he's going to be a stud. I think Dolphins, I would start Wilson as a flex. Luckily, the one league I have A-Chain, I also have Wilson, so it's a nice little handcuff there. But like if I was out McCaffrey, I'd start Wilson this week. And then obviously both Waddle and Hill are good starts. Kind of looking at the game as a whole, these are kind of the rankings I have of everyone in it.
Oh, nice. Cool. Okay. Well, Jason, you're kind of getting fresh eyes on this. Anything jump out to you?
Just zooming in on it, nothing too crazy. I think, these ratings are accurate, especially when it comes to the unknown with the Bills skill players other than Allen and Cook at this point. The only thing I may have differently is Tyreek over Achane. I mean, Tyreek is arguably the best receiver in football at this point. He commands a lot of target share, and no matter what you try to do to cover him, he always is going to get his at some point. And, he's not only going to get his, but he'll probably also break a massive one to, give fantasy owners a big, point share as well. And I still think he's a little extra motivated this week and a little extra fiery. And I think they're going to try to, feed him, to keep that train rolling.
Sure, for sure. But Chain he's the like process breaker too, right? He's a mystery box, right? If he gets 20 touches, he's probably outscoring everyone in fantasy. But
yeah, it's just like with projecting him, it's difficult because like I think averaged like 7 something a carry last year.
Yeah, his rushing numbers were receiving numbers.
Yeah, so like that data kind of throws it off. So I try to do as much as I can to mute it a little bit, but with that going on, and then with Mostert being out, it's very difficult to kind of not see him doing a bunch if he gets all the touches, you just have to kind of assume there's going to be a massive efficiency drop.
Okay. So we got a question from Captain Joe King, but we're going to get to that in a minute because it's a huge trade. I don't want to get too off subject here. But so what are the props for this game? Because I like gambling. I've already bet this game, but Jason, what do you like give me a couple of props for this Thursday nighter?
All right, so the first one, the bet that I absolutely love is Josh Allen on passing yards. The line was set at 246.5. Love the over. His last 5 games against the Dolphins, he has thrown for no less than 304 yards. So I think that's kind of what I like to call a slam spot. So really like that. And then I also like Keon Coleman over 3.5 receptions tonight. I've seen that floated around a little bit. He, as like you said, Brian, he got 20% of the target share last week. I expect those to, some of those to convert a little bit more as he gets a little more comfortable with Josh Allen. And I think he can haul in at least 4 receptions tonight.
Plus, I think Allen only had 2 passes at half, right? So
yeah, he was 9-9 at one point in like the third quarter. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, so that's how. Brian, what about you? What's the model? What's the model tell us to bet?
I didn't look at James Cook anytime touchdown, but I have him over 50% chance of scoring. So
okay,
if
cool.
it's anything close to like minus 110 or even if it's plus 100, I'm taking that.
It's going to be plus. It's probably like plus 150 at least, I'd say.
But yeah, I would take that. And I'm just going to hammer A-Chain on a lot of the overs. I would project him to score. I do like the under on Tua yards.
Wow.
It's the beginning of the year and everyone's like over. So I tend to just at the beginning of the year kind of just go unders. that's just me being maybe grumpy and love my numbers, but I feel like public's going to be on a bunch of overs in this game, so let me go against and just pick some unders.
Sure. Thursday night usually goes under too, right? Yeah, short
Yeah.
week. But man, Tua just Waddle looked great too. Him and Hill went over 100. Okay, let's get rid of your model. Get out of here. Let's go, Captain Joe King. All right, we're going to crazy trade time. Huge fan of the show. Thank you, my man. All right. Should I trade? So Xavier Worthy, Mason, Jordan Mason, and Keon Coleman and Flowers. So Mason and Flowers for Gibbs and Moore. Are we thinking? Is there another Moore? DJ Moore. DJ Moore. Okay, so the classic 4 for 2. Gibbs and Moore are probably the best 2 players. I don't know. I don't know. Jason, what do you think?
I'm going to go with no on this. I mean, again, the quantity alone scares me. And plus, you're giving up, a lot of potential here. I mean, Worthy had over 20 fantasy points last week. He won't do that every week, but he's still going to be probably a solid flex play moving forward, especially the weeks that Hollywood Brown doesn't play. Keon Coleman is going to eventually emerge as the number 1 guy in Buffalo, in my opinion. And then you also have Zay Flowers, who, is the number 1 technical wide receiver right now in Baltimore as well. And, Lamar Jackson won't miss him when he's wide open every time. And then Mason, for however many weeks CMC's out in that Niner offense, they run the ball, they run it well. Even though they have a lot of other options, like I mentioned, it's still going to be probably a solid play every week until McCaffrey comes back.
Sure. And I think, again, anytime you guys give us a trade, let us know. League settings is the most important, right? Right. I'd say if this is a 12-team league, right, maybe you do it. And if 14 deeper, right, you want the depth, right, Brian?
Yeah, I would. Yes, I agree. What scares me is DJ Moore with Caleb Williams. He did not look good to me, Caleb Williams. They had 64 yards passing. That's just abysmal in my opinion. So that does scare me. I mean, Gibbs is a stud. He's going to get fed like a stud. Before overtime, he was even like the leading rusher for that team. Obviously, overtime, they just handed Montgomery the ball for a while. But, I mean, it is a lot of potential. But you're also selling high on that. Mason's not going to be valuable in 5 weeks. And Worthy and Coleman Worthy had a great week, but I mean, Hollywood Brown's also coming back there. The only people I'm really worried about giving up in that are Coleman and Flowers, but if I get Gibbs back, I would do that in a heartbeat. So I think I would reluctantly do that, assuming like I have the rest of my team isn't hurt. I'm not giving up 4 players if I have McCaffrey injured and someone else like a Puka or someone injured.
And then we also, right there, we got back to you, Jason. We got a Dunze and Keenan Allen not practicing, right? So we could go back to DJ Moore hyper target.
Oh yeah, exactly. Good to see a lot of DJ Moore this week, and maybe even Colton Met. Although tight ends didn't really get targeted by Caleb Williams last week. I think I want to say 26 of his 29 targets went to non-tight ends. So that was a tough look. But yeah, Dunze appears to have a knee sprain, and he seems like he was going to miss time. Keenan Allen, you kind of know what you're going to get with him at this point. Is like when he's healthy, he's an absolute walking bucket. He's going to get you probably at least 8 to 10 points a week minimum. That's 4 touchdowns. But the thing with him is he's hurt, and now again he's dealing with some issues. It sounded like in the beginning of the week, especially according to DJ Moore himself, he even said he seemed fine, and the only thing about him is he's just old. But I guess it's a little more serious than DJ was letting on his radio hit earlier this week.
Brian, do you have Keenan Allen at a 38% target share?
Last week, yep.
Holy crap. Okay, so let's just like panic or throwaway, right? So Bears, are we panicking? There's 3 wide receiver, 3-headed monster. Everyone was excited, and then he has 97 passing yards.
I mean, I'm not. It's gonna be better. It's just how much better. And like rookie quarterbacks on average aren't very great for wide receivers. And then now you're expecting 1 rookie quarterback to carry 3. I never thought that was going to happen. It was just whether or not like it'd be week to week with players. I still think DJ Moore will be fine. but it does scare me for his upside.
Okay,
I
Jason.
think he'll be a wide receiver too.
Okay, Jason, who would you rather have for fantasy right now? You could have Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, or DJ Moore, or Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and Romeo Dobbs.
Wow, that's a tough call at this point. Well, considering the three on the other side are healthy, I'm taking the Packers guys.
You are? Okay.
And that's simply just based on health at this very moment, because especially if you're starting out 0-1, you need guys who are available.
Even with the QB situation?
Even with the QB situation, because he's going to be back sooner rather than later. It's just you have a Dunze who's banged up and seems like he's going to be missing some time, and you have Allen, which is a relative unknown. And even if he does play, I mean, we've seen him come back and play before, and just to get injured again, and get injured early in the game, and really hurt you for trusting him in your lineup. So at this point, I'll take the Packer. I'll go with the Packer trio.
Okay. But let's hit some week 2. Let's talk about your fantasy teams. Any tough start sit questions we got? Like Brian? You got your one guy in your flex for your 4 guys? Who are we?
Let me just pull that up. It's a lot. Let's see. It's Jerome Ford, Ramondre Stevenson, Zay Flowers, Malik Neighbors, Keon Coleman, and Brian Thomas Jr.
Okay. Well, Jason, what would you do there? I feel like Ramondre is the play, but
yeah, you got to play Ramondre at this point.
Right.
I mean, he got 25 carries last week. Volume is there. You got to go with that.
it was like all his yards were after contact too.
He's probably not going to run for 120 and a ton again this week, but he'll still probably have 75 to 80 and maybe a touchdown. But at the end of the day, 25 carries is 25 carries. He's still effective in the passing game, so that definitely exists. I would probably go Ramondre there. In terms of Malik Neighbors, right? I like Malik this week. Call me insane, but as we were talking about earlier, Daniel Jones does well against the Commanders. It's his one little beacon of light, and that Commander defense, proved last week they're still not very good. So I do like Malik Neighbors as well this week.
Okay. Even though I think he's not practicing too, right? I don't think he practiced today.
Yeah.
So, but he's a rookie. He's young. He should suit up. Okay, Brian. I'm gonna get rid of this Bears. So, how heavily do you weigh like what happened in week 1 with your model, right, versus last year?
5% this week.
So
just because, if the way it works, if the Bears didn't score an offensive touchdown, I don't think. So then, am I expecting them to have 0% passing and rushing touchdowns for? That would just kind of skew it a bunch. So currently it's only 5%. Once I get next week's in, I'll kind of gradually probably bring it to 15, 20. And then once I get to week 5, almost make it 90. I just need more data at the moment. And I just don't want 1 week of Keenan Allen at 38% to skew everything else.
Okay. What defenses? I want to talk about defense. What defenses kind of scared you to play against based on they look better, and then which ones the opposite, or maybe we thought were better and now you're just lining up to play your guys at?
Sorry, Brent.
Go ahead,
Jason, jump in.
The one that I'm going to say is the Jets. I thought, they were one of the top 3 defenses drafted in pretty much every single league known to mankind, and they got shredded on Monday night. And that was with a little more competent quarterback play. They were not on the field they were still on the field a while on Monday night. The Niners really controlled possession in that game. But it's not like, Zach Wilson was back there just throwing 3 crummy, with 1 bad run, 2 crummy passes, and they were done. Rodgers got the Jets down the field at times, and, they had their chances to rest. But the Niners, really did a number to them. And they also missed C.J. Mosley at times. He left the game for a little bit, and then Sauce Gardner even left the game for a little bit, leaving a guy who can literally play on an island. Take that away, opens up the whole field again. So I don't really know what's going on there. But the Jets at this point, that was a little scary. Luckily, they're playing the Titans on Sunday, so that's a pretty favorable matchup for them. In terms of defense, I thought the Bears, their defense is. I thought last year, their defense really came around, especially after they picked up Montez Sweat, and they didn't disappoint on Sunday. They went for over 20 fantasy points in a lot of leagues. They had a special teams touchdown, a defensive touchdown. They have dudes who can play, and it's only going to get better once that offense rounds into form and the Bears are able to, be off the field a little bit.
But they also can't play Will Levis every week. But yeah, Bears look good. So you're starting them. So Bears defense, their fantasy start this week.
Even against the Texans at this point, I think I don't want to say you can feel totally safe playing them, but it's worth it because you think they can probably force a turnover or two and do some damage there.
Okay, if you got the Bears and the Jets, who are you playing this week though?
Jets.
Okay. Oh, so we're not.
Will Levis for C.J. Stroud.
Yeah. All right, Brian. Brian, Jason rudely interrupted you, so you got some time to think. Hit me.
No, I like that because, I do have time. I mean, I generally don't draft kind of top tier defenses just because, even this, like the Jets, considered a top tier defense. They played 49ers, which is a top tier offense. So, I'm not going to feel comfortable starting that and expecting a big week in general. So I'm all matchups. I have in all of my leagues, I ended up with Cincinnati Bengals defense, not good. And the Chargers defense, also not good, but they just had good schedules. So I just lean schedules. I think Chargers are what they started with the Raiders and now have Carolina. That's what I'll do. I tend to just stream and hope maybe I find somebody good enough to keep for the year. Otherwise, I just keep streaming.
Okay. Jason, you got any good start sits? Anything you're sweating for fantasy this week?
I'm always sweating. It is what it is. Even just my quarterback situation, as great as Patrick Mahomes is, I don't feel that comfortable starting him against the Bengals. The Bengals defense is still solid. They only gave up, 18 points last week, and they do tend to play Kansas City tough. They do tend to play Kansas, and it's a week-to-week league too. Just because they, took the Patriots a little too lightly doesn't mean they're not gonna, dial it back in and show up the next week. And they still do have, two guys who can wreck a game up front, and Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. So a little nervous to start Mahomes there, but I still do like him at home, so I'll go with it. But if you want another option there, it's crazy to say to go against Patrick Mahomes, which honestly he'll probably find this and old takes exposed me for it, and I'm still going to start. Don't worry, I still got faith, but I wouldn't hate it.
Okay, where do you got Patrick? Where do you got Mahomes this week, Brian? This is crazy. Benching Mahomes at home.
I'm not benching him, that's for sure.
I'm not either.
I would, if you bench him, I will bet him, just because that's how the world works.
Oh, I got QB7, right ahead of Allen.
This Josh Allen, Brian, I love your model, but you having Josh Allen 7. Wasn't he QB1 last week?
By far, yep. I had him QB1 last week too, if you want to check the records. But.
Okay, at least you're right. Okay. I guess it's scaring me a little, but Jason, would this scare you at all for your Allen over yards bet?
No. No, the model's tough. Numbers are numbers the way they are, but I also, again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, when we were talking about the Niners going into Minnesota and having a tough time. They just have certain teams or situations where you just have ownage, and Allen has just had it against the Dolphins. His last 5 games, he's gone over 300 yards. And even if the game does get out of hand, he'll be chucking it around and, getting his yards in some way, shape, or form. Garbage time always exists. I've always felt there should be some mechanism for fantasy in regards to it, but there isn't. So you just got to take it. And it's going to be hard for me to believe him going under 250 yards even tonight.
Okay. We're just going to go a couple more minutes here. We got a question just for everyone listening. It's the NFL Fantasy Today Show. If you missed any questions here, check us out on Discord, right? Twitter. We got polls. You can always ask us a question. DM Brian if, Josh Allen finishes his QB1 and you benched him. Or, DM Jason if he convinced you to bench Mahomes, which he didn't really do.
I, for one, said I still got faith in him and I'm starting him. But, again, I wouldn't hate it if you maybe there's another option. Okay. We got it all covered. Okay, so last question, then we're going to wrap up. We got Jay. This is a good one. I got
a chain, James Cook, Waddle, PPR. Who should I start? I guess maybe just he's got a super team and it's a flex. I think Brian, you're starting a chain, right? No. So
No question.
Jason, let's just take a chain out and let's assume he's playing because he's mystery box. So Cook and Waddle. Jason, who are you starting in a flex?
At this point, I'm going Cook just based on sheer volume numbers alone. Even though Waddle and Tua have it going, I always tend to lean running back in this case, especially a number one running back, since they're the guy. And again, Buffalo's receiver situation still being figured out, and their pass catcher situation is still being figured out. So Cook's going to get the rock a bunch, and he's also used in the passing game, so that also really helps his stock. So I'm going James Cook.
Okay, Brian.
I've Cook a good amount higher as well. I think one way to kind of look at it is, all right, so Waddle's, James Cook's probably like 8 yards of reception. Waddle is probably like 13, 14. Waddle, you probably expect to get maybe 6 receptions, 5 to 6 receptions. Cook, you expect to get like 4 to 5. So then is that difference in receptions, yards per catch going to be outweighed by Cook's rushing ability? I say yes. That's how I look at it. Again, I try to take my emotions out of it a lot. I'm an Eagles fan, so it makes it hard with them. But here I'm going Cook over Waddle. I think
what did the Eagles have to do with it?
Well, I'm just saying, like, that's the one time where it's very difficult for me to take emotions out.
Okay. So Jay says, is Chain going to play? And he said he game time decision, but I think they're on the right side of questionable. I think he's going to play. I wouldn't worry about him playing. I'd be worried about him staying healthy in the game. Right. But with that risk, I mean, nobody knows anything. I think you got to start him. If he's playing, you start him with Mostert out because he might win you your week single-handedly. He could win. He could still put up 20 points in the half. He might be limited. Yeah, he's probably not getting 20 carries, but he's probably getting 15 touches, which is going to be 100 yards, probably a TD. So
yeah, I mean, I would even if you look at last year, he wasn't the main Mostert out-touched him in most games, and he still performed when he played. If he's healthy and he's on the field, he performed. I just think you got to look at that. Maybe you look at it as if he plays and he's on the field and you find out 90 minutes before kickoff, then you want the downside to be it's like last year where Jeff Wilson's taking that Mostert role where maybe he gets majority of the touches, but whenever A-Chain comes in, you're just expecting him to look like a Lamborghini against a Civic.
Yeah, he's good for popping one or two with just his speed in general. And then, once it gets deeper into the red zone, Jeff Wilson's a big angry runs guy, very powerful runner, tends to catch a number of bodies and run through dudes or run over dudes. So a little bit different for sure.
Okay, it's a tough one because honestly, I bet Waddle tonight. I think Waddle's going to have a monster. I think they really actually are pretty good at Tyreek. I don't think he scored more than 85 or racked up more than 85 yards against the Bills. It's like the only team that can kind of limit him. Waddle, every time I watch, he's wide open. He's had some big drops. So I love Waddle, but also James Cook is my guy. Okay. We're going to wrap up here. We'll give last thoughts. Anything fantasy related for week 2? Anything just you didn't get out? Any hot takes in the burner, Jason?
I'm not a big hot takes guy, so I'm gonna gladly refrain from the hot takes. I usually try to do things in a more calculated measure, so I'm out on the hot takes.
Okay, cold takes then. You got any?
Yeah, don't get too cute matchup wise. I played the Bengals defense last week, and it ended up really burning me, and it cost me the one matchup I lost. I played them over the Steelers. Should have had a little more faith in the Steelers.
Okay, don't get too cute. I like that. All right, we're gonna hashtag that. Brian.
I would just don't overreact to week 1 completely. Marvin Harrison,
cliche, Brian.
But you think about a Marvin Harrison Jr., he's still the number 1 on that team. I'm still starting him. Stuff like that, where it's just all right, again, Keenan Allen's not getting 38% every week. So just try to kind of take a step back and not go crazy over that. But my only crazy take is probably I expect Saquon to get another 2 touchdowns.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, historically, I think week 1, if you just zag for week 2, you probably end up doing great, right? But
Hmm.
people recency bias is a real problem. Okay, cool. All right, that was an hour. We're gonna take off. Thank you. You can find Brian Shade_fantasy. Jason, we didn't put your Twitter up there, but it was what, JBomb8575?
8525.
8520. Oh, I'll get it eventually.
We'll
Okay,
get
thanks.
it.
All right, thanks guys for coming. Thank you guys for all the questions. Check us out Sunday morning. 10 a.m., 11 a.m. I should know that for our start sit. Plus any more questions. We got lots going on. And Thursday night, go Bills. Everyone go Bills tonight. Go Bills.
I'm going the Bills, riding with the Bills Mafia, and I will be at a Bills bar watching the game. So
Okay.
out in Portland.
If Josh Allen finishes 1 for fantasy, we get to throw Brian through a table.
Works.
Okay.
Me.
All right, later, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah.